Violence is reportedly escalating in Syria, with activists spreading the word to major media outlets Monday that Syrian forces have been sending in tanks and launching artillery attacks on rebel strongholds in the cities of Homs and Zabadani. The latest crackdown follows the suspension of the Arab League mission in Syria, the closing of the U.S. Embassy in Damascus, purportedly out of security concerns, the recalling of the UK ambassador from Damascus, and a Russian and Chinese veto of a UN Security Council resolution over the weekend that called for the Syrian president to step down. The Syrian regime appears to be using the breathing room it gained with the Russian and Chinese veto to try and rout out rebel forces in at least two of Syria's most restive cities. But steady and increasing covert backing of the Free Syrian Army rebels, as well as the political and military challenges to using heavy armor in urban warfare, seems to be preventing the regime from militarily crushing its opposition. Syrian activist reports of artillery shells hitting neighborhoods in Homs in western Syria and Zabadani further south near the Lebanese border indicate that the regime is renewing an offensive against Free Syrian Army rebel positions. These reports always have to be taken with a grain of salt, since the Syrian opposition has a strategic interest in portraying any crackdown as an impending massacre that would in turn increase the moral pressure on UN Security Council members and potential intervening states to agree on the need to militarily intervene, along the lines of what occurred in Libya. But the Syrian regime also seems to be legitimately concerned about the gradual spread and strengthening of FSA rebel units in Syria. Before, the regime was relying principally on hired thugs called shabiha to crack down on scattered groups of civilian protesters. Now, we're seeing more cases of Syrian forces battling against armed pockets of FSA rebels protecting civilian protesters. It's pretty much an open secret now that the United States, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, as well as Qatar and Jordan have been involved in providing covert assistance to the FSA rebels, including food, medical supplies, arms shipments, and training. Though the FSA is still far from being capable of overwhelming the Alawite-dominated security forces that the al-Assad clan is relying on to deal with the unrest, this rebel force is developing into more than just a nuisance for the regime. The regime especially needs to prevent the FSA from developing the means to hold territory and deny access to Syrian forces in places like Zabadani and Homs, where FSA has been able to concentrate more of its forces. The key to the FSA's ability to sustain itself in the face of the regime's attacks is maintaining supply lines emanating from Lebanon. The Lebanese supply lines allow FSA rebels and their facilitators to cross much shorter distance to reach restive areas in Homs, Hama, and the Damascus suburbs. Their biggest challenge, however, is evading Syria's pervasive intelligence network in Lebanon. Already, a series of assassination attempts have been reported against high-profile anti-Syrian Lebanese political and security figures, which indicates that the Syrian intelligence apparatus is at work in trying to cut off the supply lines at the source. But the regime's growing domestic distractions also appear to be undermining Syria's usual strength in Lebanon, and Stratfor has been receiving indications that the movement of supplies and weapons through these routes is on the rise as a result. The development of Lebanon as a major base for supplying the FSA will be an important indicator to watch moving forward in assessing the strength of the armed opposition. On the diplomatic front, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his SVR intelligence chief will be in Damascus Tuesday, allegedly to try and convince the al-Assad leadership to step down as part of a Russian-sponsored political transition. The Russian veto shouldn't have come as a surprise to anyone, given Russia's interest in maintaining a regime in Damascus that will remain friendly to Russian interests and allow Russia to maintain a base on the Mediterranean. Despite its rhetoric, even the U.S. anticipated the Russian veto and has made clear it's consulting with the Russian leadership to try and work out a diplomatic solution. For now, the United States is willing to entertain any diplomatic option that does not propel it toward launching an overt military campaign in Syria. And in the meantime, the U.S. can operate more comfortably in the gray area of covert operations to sustain a challenge to the Syrian regime in the form of the FSA.